So, good morning, everyone. I assume that we are live now, and my presentation will be quite interactive. We will have several polls and several interactions with the audience. And since it is the first presentation, I would like, first of all, to make sure that we can see and hear each other. Can you please, in a chat or in a Q&A, just hit the plus and let me know if you can hear me and if you can see me. And then I will walk you through the slides. Please let me know. Okay. I assume all good to go. So for now, the very first thing which I would like to do is I would like to walk you through the panel and the tool we will be using for today's whole conference. So on the left side of my screen, you will see an icons for navigation. The first one is about to see the all live sessions there. Then you can also see the schedule. You can see all the other speakers besides myself, see the company's partners. And if you need any help, you can press on this info button and it would connect you with the needed personnel. On the right side, you need to remember that you have a possibility to ask questions as well as do a chat. And in a chat, we will also later interact through a poll. So make sure that you use the chat option and you are staying there, because as I say, we will be interacting through it. So now let me go through my presentation. My presentation is about why to automate, let's say, not perfect processes. I leave the word messy there. There is also another word which I use for it, but it is not suitable for a format of this presentation. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Eduard Shlepetskyy. I'm founder of a company called Active, active.eu. We are based in Slovakia, but delivering RPA services to German customers in UK, in Austria, and now expanding in the rest of Europe, as well as we have several successful engagements in Asia. Last year, as well as this year, I was selected as UiPath Most Valuable Professional, and on top of my commercial activities, I'm also interacting quite a lot in community. So if you are part of UiPath community, you can find me also on a forum. You can approach me directly there, as well as if you afterwards want to keep in touch, feel free to approach me via LinkedIn. Next thing is I'm in automation business since 2014. And since this time, I was implementing RPA or providing trainings in there or was doing Center of Excellence enablements in following, but not only limited to following companies as Henkel, Linde, BASF, Olympus, BNP Paribas, Semperit, Accenture, and some other industry and consulting companies. And last but not least, we have over 200 robots in operations. And this number, what is interesting to highlight, I bring this number not as an overall total number of processes we have automated, but this is just for one customer, which runs the large, well-scaled Center of Excellence. So the overall number is higher, but I think that this is one of the biggest achievements where we successfully run the quite large, unattended, I would say, the robot factory, let's so-called. And topic for today's presentation will start, as I mentioned before, with the poll. And I would like to ask you, what do you think comes first? Optimize, so you first improve your processes, make it more linear, reduce the bottlenecks, etc., and then automate. Or first you, as I say right here, kind of weird looking automate and then optimize. Yeah. So and on the right side you can see quite familiar picture already. So I would like now to encourage you to go into a chat, and you're supposed to see the first poll on your screen. So please go there and try to interact with the poll and let us know what do you think about this. So far we have we have already several votes. I would take few moments so you can properly vote and express your opinion. Again, you can find the poll in a chat in the top right corner, and then there you're supposed to see polls. I see additional votes coming. What's great. Really appreciate the interaction. We take, I don't know, 20 more seconds, 20, 30 more seconds, and then we will speak about the results. So again, top right corner, you have chat, then you have polls, and there you just need to select if we should automate the process first, or optimize the process first, or automate the process first. Okay, for now we have 13 votes, and the split for votes is, okay, so it is still adding on. It is 79% for optimization and 21% for automation. So it is more or less 80-20 saying for the optimize first. What is like interesting thing, and I must agree with you that as per basic standards, it is recommended to improve your processes prior to automating. And if you have, I was thinking about creating another poll, but I didn't want to have it more or less self-explanatory. I assume that some of you have the continuous improvement or process improvement teams in your organization, and quite common and still popular. Why I say still? Because there are now new methodologies coming, etc. But Lensic Sigma was there for quite some time, and Lensic Sigma is about like processes and methodologies, tools, and mindset. Yes, so Lensic Sigma is not only about how to apply the process improvement to specific process, but this is the mindset which should be with each and every individual in a company. So for those who don't know, very quickly, what's the Lensic Sigma? So it usually consists of 5 phases. It is define, where you take any of the processes, and for this process, you try to think what would be the areas you would like to improve prior to improve, which you would like to measure. So you see it and try to define the scope of your improvements. What would you like to improve and realize? Then I have a comment for, can restart the slides. Can you see my slides? Is there, are you properly seeing my slides? Because I have a comment from organizers that it is worth restarting it. So please let me know in the chat if it is still visible. And for now, I will try to share it again. Hopefully it will help. Share your screen. Good. Question to audience or to organizers, please confirm if it is well visible now. To me, I can well see it. Okay, I will continue. If anything, you still can let me know in the chat or in the questions. Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you for elaborating on this one. Just now realized. Okay, so quickly, I think you didn't miss much. We had the chicken and egg problem, what was the most important on this slide, as well as we touched the Lensic Sigma methodology, and then later I was going through the phases. So we have define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Yeah, and how it is happening with your process. During the whole process, you have actually you first define the scope, then you start measuring, and you talk to your, usually this is called SMEs, so subject matter experts, so the people on who are executing the process. They help together with the process improvement team to measure it, and then once you have the measures, you try to go through it and find where in those measures there is a bottleneck, there is some root cause for the issues, etc. Once you identify it, I think that one of the hardest parts of Lensic Sigma comes improve. So you really need to implement those great findings. Yeah. So, and there we, for the first time, we face the change management. So whatever great idea you have, it is not only about pitching it and selling it later to your sponsor, to your manager, or general manager, or whatever, but also implementing it on the end. And then the last phase is control. So you apply the measures at the very beginning, but you also apply more or less the same measures later in the process. And then this methodology is also known for the abbreviation of DMAIC. And it is just worth remembering these words. And my designer, when we were creating this presentation, said that for remembering, we should really memorize it in this way. So yeah, remember these stages, because later we will be also referring to those stages. For now, I would like to ask another question in a poll. I'm curious, how long does the optimization process or process improvement process take in your organization? So again, I would kindly ask you to interact in a session. Top right corner, you go to chat, then you will see the polls, and there we should interact with the poll. Your inputs are quite valuable, and later I will be also showing communicating the results. So for now we have 3 votes. Okay, good. So in previous poll, just to set the expectations, we had 16 votes. So I would appreciate if we reach more or less the same number. So 14, 15, 16 votes would be helpful for me to continue the presentation. And then same as in the previous one, I would communicate the results with you. So far we have 9 votes. So those who don't vote yet, top right corner, you have a chat, then you have polls there. And in the polls, please go on and provide the information about like how long the optimization or process improvement takes, meaning that how long does it take to go for you through all the stages with your organization. And okay, we have the results. We still miss 2 people who are hiding or trying to find the chat and polls. We have 1 more, but I can already communicate the results. So how results look like is that we have 13%. So the smallest number of people say that it takes 1 to 3 months to automate, to optimize the process. Then majority, 44%, says that it is 3 to 6 months. Now we have 47% of those people. Some people, 18%, almost 20, say that it is between 6 and 12 months. And surprisingly for me, quarter of people say that process improvement takes more than a year. And I can agree that in some cases, especially if it involves the IT integrations, etc., because after the great idea of how to improve application or even this change management and human behavior, it really takes time to implement it as well as to go through all the phases. And now, what I would like to highlight also, that Lensic Sigma is about continuous improvement. And the key word here, of course, at some areas we also speak about the improvement, but continuous. As I was mentioning at the very beginning, it is the mindset, yes? So it is something what people do always. And there is, I always, whenever we start the new project, I realize when customers say, you know what, we don't have that perfect processes as you have with other clients, etc. And every client says that. Every client is knowing and that the processes are not perfect. In the same time, we think that somewhere those processes are better. What is not true? Since 2014, I never seen the perfect process. There is always something. But before we go into the continuation of the presentation, I would like to raise the last poll for today. And this is about how long the automation takes in your organization. So how long, and automation without optimizing or after it is optimized already. So how long does it take after, or you already have the process optimized and then you just go for automating it, or you don't optimize it at all. You take some, I don't know, maybe smaller process or self-explanatory process and straightforward go and automate it. So please go and vote. I'm really curious, like, what would be the results, and then we continue the conversation. Again, just maybe some of people joining later. So polls you can find in the chat in the top right corner, and then there is a polls button. So so far we have 3 polls, and as I promised, it should be, as far as I remember, should be the last poll. So far we have 13 votes. I really appreciate your interaction. Thank you very much for that. Let's give a few more moments and then we continue. I would be also happy to communicate the results. I would assume you're supposed to see it as well, but if not, I will elaborate on this. And I'm really happy that the polls, which we can see, also support the idea which I will present later, because I was making the presentation based on my subjective experience, and now I really appreciate that you share also your experience in this area. So far we have 17 votes, and only 6% of people say that it takes less than a month. Then majority, 60%, so 2/3, says that it is 1 to 3 months. What is also, I would say that this is also very true number in our case, that medium and large automation processes, it takes 1 to 3 months. Then we have 1/3 to 28% saying that it is 3 to 6 months, and only 6% say that it is over 6 months. So comparing to the previous result, I think that we all can agree that it looks like automating the process takes shorter and significantly shorter, considering the poll, than optimizing the process. And then another thing is, as I say, if we keep in mind that continuous improvement is about continuous, so it is taking always, and many organizations speak about this already for a long, long time. Lensic Sigma was there far before automation, far before RPA, etc. Why, if we know about this already for ages, we are still not done with this? Yeah, we are still not over with the optimization. The thing is that there will be always some new things to optimize, new things to improve, etc. And as we also learned from the previous polls, it is not that easy, fast, and straightforward. And keeping this in mind, why not trying something else? Why not, or even in addition, why not experimenting with automating first? And again, I want to highlight that if you have the process improvement team on board, it doesn't mean that you need to kick them out, etc. It is still very right approach. I am more speaking also to these business owners and COE champions who maybe don't yet have this team in a company, but truly convinced that you must have. And here, talking of must have, I just would like to elaborate that I don't think it is a must have, and you can achieve quite a lot also by automating the processes, and then it can even contribute to your optimization phase. So it is not that we take one instead of another, it is the question how one complements another. And here we have Frank. So Frank, imagine that Frank is our SME, subject matter expert, or the specialist. So he has a good experience already in executing his processes. He's hardworking guy. He actually already started manage some operations, etc. He's a hard worker, yeah, and usually this type of people like Frank are usually also involved in process improvements because he already understands how their processes looks like, what are the main areas to focus on, what to pay attention to, etc. So besides the regular work, and now let's move to the next slide. Imagine that before Frank just living his life and working hopefully 100%, sometimes with minor deviations, but let's say that he works 100%. And then when process improvement comes, usually whatever great specialist in Lensic Sigma you have, you still need to involve SME. And this involvement, since, as we said on the poll also, that it takes long time, we have Frank working 100% in his processes, plus here and there still interacting with the process improvement team and still supporting optimization initiatives. So he is overworking, and as you can see in the picture, he's a little bit stressed. Then afterwards, no one also excludes the automation. Yeah, so if you want to approach it in a complex perspective, you still need to automate the process afterwards. Though automation, I'm not sure, I didn't want to create too many polls. I'm not sure if you would agree with me, but automation doesn't require that heavy involvement of SME, because usually they are needed only at the very beginning to walk through the process. Then business analyst creates the PDD and moves on, as well as in a test phase and very occasionally while developing, etc. But it is not that heavy involvement that then, for example, in a measure phase of processing. And then last but not least, after we optimize the process and automate the process, we finally have Frank chill a bit, yeah, because his process is already automated, change management applied, but hopefully he didn't immediately get some new tasks on his table, so he can still chill a bit, yeah. And for organization, it means that afterwards, organization also starts to generate the return of investment for all those activities. Now, let's have a look at this from different angle, different perspective. So same Frank, living his 100% workload life and living his 100% working life. And then if we just swap these two activities, so if we take automate first, he is loaded same 110%. He just needs to introduce his messy process. So he needs to go and show how he executes this non-perfect process, and it gets automated. And you automate wrong process or messy process, let's say. Yeah, there are always those statements that if you scale or if you automate messy process, you automate mess, and then you scale mess, etc. So we automate not perfect process. What are the outcomes? Just from time, from workload and return of investment perspective. After automating, Frank already has some free time to interact in optimization phase. So though it is not perfect, we still know that there is a bunch of work to be done. At least Frank doesn't need to do all the manual copy-paste and all the manual interactions on top of being part of Lensic Sigma, what from capability point of view is quite a big gap. We take repetitive stuff from Frank and let him focus on Lensic Sigma or on any other optimization activities, as well as it starts generating the return of investment earlier. So meaning that while Frank is working on optimization, company doesn't need to pay his overtime, or maybe even there are some savings which go about it, and maybe we can accumulate some money for process improvement initiative as is. And then last but not least, we still finally achieve the more or less the same state, because if you apply the same optimization, yes, so if you would achieve the same, you remove the same bottlenecks, etc., you're supposed to achieve the same result. Again, it is not applicable to each and every process, but I would not be that closed into this thinking of that we only need to go this way, because all the conferences, all the speakers, all the best practices I did for sure optimize first. This is the theory. On practice, I'm sure, and I would be interested later. Today we will have a panel. I think that we will touch also this topic, how many companies are truly following it on practice and achieve it. Yeah. So one thing is the theory, but another thing that you always in this theory always make compromises. Yeah. And what I would like to bring on this screen, just for better comparison, I bring both back to color. You just by swapping some of activities in specific cases, you may also achieve the better outcome in terms of return of investment and I would say that workload management for your employees. Another thing or another aspect of automating the process first, I will elaborate further on, and we decided to call it like make optimization great again. And let me elaborate on this one. So what I mean by this is, first of all, on my experience, I'm not sure if it is also your experience, and I didn't want to load our communication and our presentation in the morning with many polls. Being first, I think that still people need to take time and wake up. But I assume that you face also the problem where it is harder to involve people into the process improvement initiatives due to, like, there is just a lack of engagement, that people are busy with their regular processes. Moreover, exactly the people you need are busy with the processes, because always the people who have the most experience are the most demanded. They always try to deal with more complex tasks. They try to resolve all the issues in the team, etc. And these are the people which you want to be in your process improvement initiative. And with automating the process first, I think that you can still make a compromise. You can ask, you can take something from these people, their knowledge, their time, etc. But you can also give something in return by making their life easier, yeah, by making their experience with automation easier. So this is one thing. Another thing is robots, like you all know, this the conference is dedicated to RPA. It is not only about the automation, but robots are also collecting a lot of data. Of course, it is not by default. You need to create it in your code, but the point is that you can get much more information. And I used to always elaborate on this KPIs. So KPIs is key performance indicators. And if we focus on this first letter, key, yeah, so it is, back in the past, people were selected the key performance indicators, which are the most important for them to later track them. Yeah, and why they were selecting key but not all? Because it back in the past it takes time, and I think that we all still remember the times when you download many reports, then you copy it into one Excel. Those who are more tech advanced in quotation marks, they were having plenty of formulas there. You copy it all in, and then it generates you some fancy KPIs, numbers, maybe even graphical interaction with some, I don't know, charts, etc. Yeah, but you were focusing only on key indicators, because if you were to go after all, it would take much more time. For robots, it doesn't matter, because once you interact with the field already, it takes for a developer really minutes to also add the activity to lock this field, to remember this data for further processing. Then later you can show it in your visualization. So what I would like to highlight here is that we are using data from robots execution for optimizing the process. And the most common thing, as a sample, what I would like to bring here is you have business and system exception. So system exception, when something goes wrong with the application, let's imagine that we don't yet know what's the reason there. And then we have a business exception. So if we are automating order processing, you have customer blocked, credit limit overreached, I don't know, wrong date of delivery, etc. All those things which you define in your process documentation, we later create a pie chart saying what out of business exceptions are happening most often. And this becomes a good background for continuous improvement. It is live data. We don't export it once a month or once a day or once. It is like live. Whenever there is a new update of like new order is processed, robot go and logs it to, in our case, to Kibana. Usually we use Kibana or Tableau for visualizations. And then users are seeing live how their robots are performing and understand that, okay, majority of customers are sending orders for and overreaching the limits, so maybe it is worth opening the discussions with them and having the larger limits, or setting up the payments earlier so they still have some buffer. So next thing is, as I say, that insightful data from robots can also make the optimization great again. Next thing is return of investment. I was speaking more about this on the previous slide with Frank and all these many colors, but our observation is that in the first stage, and it is topic solely for RPA, not touching the optimization, we generate the return of investment for itself, so that RPA should pay back the cost which you spend for implementation. But afterwards, you may also generate the extra cost for your process improvement, meaning that if you have the significant saving, FTE saving, or cost saving, or quality improvement, these benefits can start complementing your process improvement in the way that there will be a spare budget, or at least the capacity of people. So you don't need to pay overtime or pay later psychologists if people are burned out or whatever. But really, it creates extra capacity, or in money equivalent, or in time equivalent, or sometimes in data equivalent. Yeah, so giving more data and maybe simplifying this measure phase, if you remember the phases. So maybe simplifying also the measure phase. And this is quite interesting, and my favorite here, easier change management. And let me explain what I mean by this. If you, we still speak about the fact that we definitely want to optimize the process sooner or later. Is that the improvement applicable after automation? Definitely yes, for sure it is applicable. What is the difference for a change management? And I now would be curious to hear the experience from people who were involved in this change management, even after just solely just RPA. The thing is that this improve or that the change management phase is the hardest in the whole journey, and same for RPA. Even after you automate the process, you are done with technology part, but then it takes some time to really quantify those savings and really implement those savings, because you have a free capacity, but what later to do with people, how to reorganize the teams, etc. This takes long. And the main difference in approaches for automate first and optimize first is that if you optimize first, all your changes are applicable to people. So you create a new way of execution the process, you remove some bottlenecks, etc. And then you need to teach people in working a different way. Where on the other hand, if you automate the process first, many of your changes will apply to a technology level. And you would be absolutely right if you would say that, yeah, but I need to rework code. That's true. So you build the code from the very beginning with keeping in mind that sooner or later you will need to improve it. But come on, all the processes which you were building so far, or your organization was building so far, was built with this assumption that sooner or later it will be improved. This is the mindset of Lensic Sigma. There is no the perfect state or the completed state of optimization. So the main point here is that if you are to implement the change management, if you say that now instead of transaction A, I'll be using transaction B, you don't need to go and teach people to use this transaction, but you just need to go and implement the robot. An interesting thing is that you can do it while robot is running. You can do another implementation, and switch for you would be a matter of minutes, because you would just need to swap the package in orchestrator or control room or whatever you use, but it would be just a technical switch, but not days, weeks, and months of people training and then controlling also how they execute afterwards, etc. So the key statement about the change management is that robots are really easy to talk to, and we should definitely also utilize this advantage and this aspect of automating first. And last but not least, RPA is not a YOLO jump. I learned this YOLO just recently, also from my colleague when we were creating together this presentation. So you only live once. Yeah. The thing is that even while automating process, you still apply some optimization, you want it or not. And it's not a secret for you that even if you want a lot, very rarely process looks exactly the same before and after automation, even if you don't apply any additional optimization steps. What I mean is, while creating PDD, always good business analyst tries to challenge it. Business analysts try to ask questions. What if something goes wrong here? What if something goes wrong there? Then also, good business analysts should ask also, are there any other different ways of how to do the same thing? Then later we usually compare it and understand what is better for robot. So this is the first step, where on the stage of PDD creation, PDD is process design document, just to elaborate on this. On the stage of process design document creation, there are usually some small ideas which doesn't require to go through all the steps as a define, measure, analyze, etc. So it is just take and do enhancements. I would say that these are not really big optimization and improvements, but enhancements of positive enhancements of the process. Then the next one is you always have application assessment. And even if it is there for a long time, for example, APIs, if you take like now, most of the applications have the APIs, though I know that we still suffer with some which doesn't. Even if there is an API, rarely regular SMEs are executing the work through APIs, yes? So they still go through user interface. And one of the must-have phases for us before we go and automate the process, we sit with application specialists. We have for each application before we start the center of excellence, before we start the automating processes, we spend time with application owners in the organization, try to understand the architecture, structure, if we have a database behind, if we are able to access it, if it is compliant or not, many different questions. But actually what we try to capture is what are the possibilities of application? And already then knowing those possibilities, or later even for specific process, if we have questions, we can approach this process application owner and ask if there is a smarter and better way of doing it than doing all these many clicks and copy paste, etc. Like mass uploads, API calls, connection to a database, different shortcuts, and etc. And last but not least, SDD creation. Yeah, so it's supposed to be creation, but yeah, SDD creation. SDD stands for Solution Design Document. And talking of Solution Design Document, we need to understand that robots' behavior is different to human behavior in terms of we have a huge memory comparing to people in this way of processing, meaning that if you, simple sample is, if you need to copy something from Excel to some other application, as a human being, what you would usually do, you would have both windows on the one screen or if you are one of those rich guys in a corporate, you have 2 screens maybe, or 3 screens, whatever, and you put it side by side and you start to copying one by one, especially if you need to populate multiple fields. For robots, it remembers the whole data table once, and then you interact only with one screen. And this is just the simplest sample I bring here, that interaction and the way how we execute process is different than it was before, as well as always on SDD creation. What is the role of solution architect? Solution architect is thinking also of how it would be best for robot to execute this process. So what are the improvements we can do on this stage? So what I want to just complement to all this aspect of automating first is that you may also apply small enhancements. Again, I would never call it comparable to Lensic Sigma. I don't say that you can achieve the same thing in I don't know, 2 weeks that you achieve with Lensic Sigma in 1 year. No, it is that you still can capture, and I wouldn't be also maybe brave enough to say 80-20, but 50-50, you can still implement some improvements on the go. And by this, you can later support your process improvement initiative. So to summarize, I believe this is the last slide on my presentation. What I would like to say is that don't be concerned with automating the process first, even though you know that sometimes it is messy. Don't worry about this. And still, there are some benefits behind automating it first. And also don't think that your neighbor or competitor or your I don't know, the similar industry company has better processes than you have, because again, as I want to highlight that since 2014 being in all the process improvement initiatives and automation initiatives, I never seen a perfect process, and I doubt I will ever see it, because improvements are always possible. So don't think that someone has a better processes, but keep in mind that someone may move faster and start faster. So don't get blocked with this theory that you must optimize first. You don't must, or you must not. You may, but there won't be anything wrong if you, for certain processes, you also will automate it first. On this note, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would be really happy to answer your questions. We're supposed to raise them in Q&A, so I will now move there. It is on the top right screen, so feel free to go. Before I start answering the questions, please go and write your questions there, and I'll be happy to answer it. So the first question I have from Julia, I hope I pronounced it correctly. So Julia is saying, primary automation before optimization would not increase the time of the full automation implementation, those increase the cost of the automation deployment. I 100% agree with this. So as I was elaborating also on the presentation before, that when automating process before optimizing, you accept the fact that you are not automating fully optimized process, that you will need to return back to it and apply additional optimizations. And afterwards, as I was saying, this change management part, you would need to change your code. So your cost of automation deployment will be higher. So I agree with both statements. What I only want to say is it always depends, like, what are those proportions? So many processes are not rocket science. And still it is about getting it out from person table, making him or her able to focus on the optimization initiatives, and then killing it all, like making much better process, making more optimized. And in a worst scenario, I think that you will achieve the same, because the money you are saving, you will compensate the later automation deployment, etc. So worst case, you will be on the same level with your budget, etc. You may be lucky to generate more data with the robots. You may be lucky to not overburn your people with optimization initiatives. So my answer would be that I fully agree with both statements. I would not try to somehow change it and try to convince you different. I truly agree in this, but I would still say that it depends on the proportion. And keeping these both facts in mind, I would still say that sometimes it is just worth it. You just go automate it, and maybe there will be, usually one of the things of optimization will be that you combine several processes in a chain into one when you optimize it, and then you achieve the greater return of investment. But the point is that if you automate those three processes independently, and as we learn, especially if those are some small processes, so if you would combine it together, you wouldn't combine the largest processes all together. Usually it is small pieces here and there around. And if we say that it takes much faster than optimizing it, I think that there would be nothing wrong if you automate these three processes, or 2 out of 3 you automate, and then you try to optimize it all together. You can still, I believe, achieve the result. So that's the answer. Let me know. I'm still getting used to the interaction, so please let me know in the chat if I answered your question. In the meantime, I would go and I would read the second question. This is from Dali, if I spell it correctly. And what are the main tips you can give for effective robotic process automation? Whoa, we have 2 minutes left in this session, and I'm afraid that I mean, this is the topic itself. We will have the interesting panel about this in the afternoon. We will have a great panelist who have a good experience in this, and we will be elaborating on this topic. But I don't think that it is worth bringing like some specific things now, because again, there are many, and it starts. I only want, maybe if I am to give the one hint to people who are now setting up the Center of Excellence, etc., I would say that build it from the day one, the way that you keep in mind scaling. So because there was a lot of noise about, I hope that now it is not the case, but back in the past, everyone was saying that you can, for example, automate processes without the need of any programming experience, etc. Building robots is easy. Building robot is easy. That's a true statement. And you can learn it on different resources for different tools in like matter of few hours and days. And then you are able to build a robot. But it differs to building the Center of Excellence, or what we call a robot factory. The way that robots can interact between themselves well, the robots can follows the same standards, that you can maintain the code in 1 month, in 3 months, in 1 year, etc., as well as like you need to keep in mind the scaling from the very beginning, and it goes on all levels. It goes on the level of methodology, the type of Center of Excellence. It goes on the level of code review sequences, or the standards and everything. From all the aspects, you should not jump after, building a robot is easy. That's true, but don't screw up your RPA factory or Center of Excellence by saying, okay, it is easy to build, but then we need to rebuild it again. So that would be my answer. We have roughly 30 seconds left. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and yeah, we would still interact during a day in other sessions. So feel free to approach me here in the next presentations, as well as I'm available on LinkedIn. So yeah, I would be happy to get in touch. And for the last 10 seconds, I want to wish you a great day ahead. Enjoy it. Thank you.